Hello, moms, and welcome to Raising Leaders. This is Coach Lara. So my last video, actually, it wasn't last week, but my last video, I promised to come back and talk about sibling rivalry. But I've decided to veer away from that a bit. I still will talk about it. But today I wanted to talk about, some of the, especially one of the issues that came up in our moms meeting last Friday. So usually every third Friday, I think, of the month, we have a Face of Compassion meeting for moms. And it's when I say we, I'm talking about Moms Raising Leaders, which is a group that I lead. By the way, if you want to join us in that group, you're welcome. Just send me a message. However you got this video, just drop a message. And if it's on YouTube, just go to the comment section and drop a message to learn how to ask to join the group. But anyways, what I was saying is, so this group will come together, we'll call it Face of Compassion. We'll come together third Fridays of every month, and we just air our pain, experiences as mothers and what we're struggling with. And we had been talking about the topic, raising children, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And now, bear with me. So when we say the good, the bad, and the ugly, we're not necessarily referring to the children because they're good always, they're perfect. However, we usually, anyone who's raised children to adulthood would know that that journey comes with the good, comes with the bad, and it comes to the ugly. And so we share those experiences and we help one another grow as mothers, as we encourage, one another and share experiences. So we had been talking about the different stages of development of children and, what they experience, what to expect. In that group, we have older mothers, some mothers who have children who are already adults, so some are married. And then we have moms with, very young children who are just starting off. So, we learn from one another. And last Friday's meeting, we were talking about the big issues that our children are facing in this generation. And one of those issues, at least the one that kind of stuck out, was the issue of, the LGBT movement and how it's impacting children who are raised in the Christian way. And we emphasize how important it is to let our children know that we love these people as Christians. We love them, all right? Whether they're gays or lesbians or queer, whatever they are, whatever they've chosen to be, because at the end of the day, anybody has a right to be whatever they want to be. But our focus as Christians and as Christian mothers is not to encourage our children to be whatever they want to be, but to be who God has created them to be. All right. So whatever we do, everything we do, how we raise our children, how we teach our children, the schools we send them to, we want to stress the importance of the difference between being whatever you want to be. And I know we said that in the past, a lot of friends say, you can be whoever you want to be, you can be whatever you want to be. No, that's actually inaccurate. We're created according to the plan of God. And so you can only be what God has planned for you to be. If you deviate, not that you can deviate from it, but are you going to be happy? Are you going to live a life that pleases God? All right, so we talked about that, and we talked about the influence and the pressure that our children are facing in this generation. And if you have young children, you don't think you have time, don't think you have a lot of time. And I mentioned in that program that you want to start talking to your children about sex as early as the age of 6. Yes, I mean it. As early as 6 years old. And then you graduate the talk. We talk about the different families that, is happening, is evolving in the world right now. And then bring the perspective of God into this picture. All right, because what is happening, and I know I put out, a video about this in the past saying, don't send your children abroad. Without listening to that video. And what I was saying in there was to, talk about the pressures that, our children face when they leave home, the cultural shock. And I'm going to talk about some of those cultural shocks in a minute. The cultural shock they face from coming from Africa, where we do things in a particular way, to going to the West, where there's a lot of quote and unquote freedom to do whatever you like, be whatever you want to be. All right. So I want to talk about some of those pressures. And the reason I want to revisit them is, again, because of, some of the things that happened that were discussed at that meeting. And I sense the importance of actually reiterating what I had said in that video. And I think it's probably the video that made, parents just a bit bold to talk about some of the issues they're facing, or some of the issues they're hearing other parents facing. And I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest, is this issue of sexuality. And when I'm talking about sexuality, I'm talking about, the sexual orientation or sexual expressions that different, the way it is done in the West. Because when you talk about the gay movement, you're talking about the freedom. There's a student I'm working with, and I was saying to him that, look, being gay or practicing, same-sex relationship is not new. Because if it were new, then it wouldn't have been mentioned in the Bible. It is not new. It's always been there. So the difference now is the systems of the world wanting to convince us that it is right, that it is legal. And yes, they've made it legal, but can they force us to accept it as being right? Which is what is happening now. So your children who are going to, attending Western education are now being forced to accept that way of living. And if they do not accept it, then they're labeled. They're labeled with different names. And then there's this big cancel culture, which I don't have time to get into now. And what it all means is that the whole school, the whole system, is against them if they show in any way that they do not recognize those types of relationships. In other words, a man with a man, a woman with a woman, a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman and a man. It's all kinds of things are just going on, and they want your children to accept it, to accept that it's normal, and it's not. Is it legal? Yes, in many countries it's legal, but that doesn't make it normal, and it doesn't make it acceptable in the eyes of God. So the whole way the world is moving, and that's how we know we're moving towards the end, is everybody wants to do whatever they want to do. They want everybody to accept what they've decided to do, and they want God to accept what they've decided to do. But it doesn't work like that. God set up a system, and just like in any system, if you don't follow the system, what happens? Chaos. So you have chaos all over the world because the system that God has set up is being dismantled. But my question is, how are you preparing your children to face these pressures? Because whether or not they're going to face it is, we can't get out of that. And so as we were talking, and I was laying stress on what happens abroad, a parent then, volunteered this information. And she said, look, it's not only, happening in America or in UK, it's happening here at home. And she was talking about here at home being Nigeria, right there in Lagos. And she cited a situation where her child said to her that in their school, a boy and another boy were having a relationship. That's happening. So if you and I are thinking, oh, well, as long as my child is in Nigeria, or as long as my child is in Ghana or in Ivory Coast with me, then everything is fine. No, you're deluded if you think like that. It's happening everywhere. So educate your children. And more importantly, and this is where I'm going, more importantly, let them tell you what they've chosen. And this is difficult. I know it's difficult because, for us as parents, I'm like, why would I ask what your choice is when your natural choice is how you were born, right? I know. But I'm saying don't assume. Have the discussion. And if that's a tough area for you, then get them a coach. Get them a Christian therapist. And I'm going to talk about that now. If your child has a therapist in the West and they are not Christians, there is the risk of that therapist actually sanctioning whatever it is they want to do, because that's what's been happening. So a therapist can sanction for a 14-year-old to go and get a sex change, and they will get it, and the government will sponsor it. That's what's happening. A 14-year-old who is underage, who can drive, who cannot take alcohol, can have a sex change in the United States of America. That's the reality that we're in right now. And so that's why I'm saying, when you're sending your children abroad to school, don't focus on the education. Focus on the whole exposure that you're putting them through. The people they're going to be in the company of, the children who may come from homes where they have two dads, or homes where they have two moms, or homes where they have two moms and two dads, or homes where they have two dads and one mom. It's all going wrong. And so we have to mentally prepare our children for that, and not just toss them in and expect that, oh, they're just going to go to college, or they're just going to go to high school and they're just going to focus on their studies. No, because they're going to live in the midst of these children. So you can't expect they're just focusing on their studies. They're going to have friends amongst them, and they're going to have to accept who those children have decided to be, or whatever sexuality they decided to go along with. Now, I did mention in my last video that I'm doing a group coaching for children, and I can only take 10 this summer. And we're going to start second week of June. This is not an advertisement, because I don't do this. I don't do this, and I don't do group coaching in this way. But in order to make it more available for some parents, I've decided to do that for 5 weeks. I don't know if it's going to continue. I don't know if we're just going to do this one and that's it, or we're going to have more coming. So again, if this is of interest to you, whether your child is coming abroad or your child is right there with you in Nigeria, you just heard an example of a parent who said to me, this is happening. My child just said this to me. It's happening right there at home, if you like. So let's not be deluded. The world has turned upside down. And until our Lord and Master Jesus Christ comes, we have to equip our children. Jesus said, he prayed when he was praying for his disciples, to the Father. He said, I do not pray for you to remove them. I do not pray for you to take them away from this world. It says, but I pray that you will protect them, that you will shield them from the wicked one. That's the prayer that I pray for all that I work with. That's the prayer that I pray for my own children. That's the prayer that I ask you to pray for your children every single day. When Jesus taught us the Lord's Prayer, he says, lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil. Please pray that prayer over your children every single day. We look at the Lord's Prayer and we think it's a common prayer. No, it's a prayer packed with power, because it came from the lips, from the mouth of our Lord and Master. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. Father, lead our children not into temptation, but deliver them from the evil one. That ought to be your prayer every morning. Again, if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't bought, say it. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't know why we hesitate as parents, but I'm not going to say more on that. I know that parents are struggling out there to keep things together with their children. All right. I hope this video has been of help in any way. There are other issues that I would talk about in the future. I just want to talk about this. And if you have comments, please put your comments below. Tell me the sort of topics you would like for, to hear from this channel, what you would like me to talk about, what struggles you're having with your children, so I can tailor what I speak about to the needs out there. All right. Thank you again for listening. This is Coach Lara. God bless.